What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the JPDL. The commissioner is here. You guys can see I got the headband on it and everything. This is my thinking cap, so when this comes on, you guys know I'm ready to spit some fire, ready to spit some truth out here. Some of these will be player takes, some of these will be team-wide takes, and obviously some will be pertaining to our league. I'm not saying this is actionable advice for you guys to apply to your league or to apply to your drafts. I just feel like we're in a spot right now in the preseason where training camp battles have been decided. All the information is out there. And it's time to put your feet to the fire. It's time to really decide what you believe in. And it's an exciting time of the year. You know, football's coming up in 11 days, I think. So, we have week 0 of college football going on right now. College football really starts next weekend. But I just want to run through some things. And, hopefully you guys think some of this is interesting or hopefully somewhat helpful. I'm not going to claim to be an expert. I'm not claiming that these are going to come true. I just think that they're interesting things to think through. And I'm the kind of guy who stands on business, all right? And so this is the kind of business that I'm going to stand on. These are takes that I believe in my heart. Obviously, they're bold predictions for a reason. As we go down the list, they'll get more and more bold. So, bold. Some of these aren't going to come true, but as of right now, I do believe there's some merit of truth to them. You guys can see in the reflection of my glasses are set up. I got notes, so we'll be going down the notes. But let's get right into it. So I wanted to start off with 10, and now going to 16. That's just the overachiever I am. I've been that way since I was a little kid. So we have 16 bold predictions. Number 1 right here. I don't think Ahmad has the top 30 running back on his roster. So the top 4 guys, if you can even call them that, on his roster right now, he has Tyron Tracy, he has Aaron Jones, Quinshon Judkins, and Trey Benson. All right, let's start with the bottom. Trey Benson, that's not going to happen. Unless James Conner gets hurt in the first 3 weeks, that's just not going to happen. He's going running back 46 in Fantasy Pros redraft rankings right now, so he's outside the top 30. Judkins, he's 39 in Fantasy Pros ranking. I don't know. He's not even signed to a contract right now, so there's no way he's going to be out there week 1. I don't think he'll have a top 30 finish again unless he actually, gets acclimated to the offense and gets brought up to speed by the first couple weeks of the season. But I feel like he's not really going to make an impact until week 6 at the earliest. So let's get to the top 2 guys who are interesting here, Aaron Jones and Tyron Tracy. Aaron Jones, I guess he's an explosive running back, but all the training camp reports have been that Jordan Mason has been outperforming him. Now, look, as the Mystics owner, yes, I do own Jordan Mason. Could I be biased here? Maybe a little bit, but if you see them side by side, like one of them's a man and one of them's a man who used to be. All right, and Jordan Mason, we saw what he did when he filled in for Christian McCaffrey last year. I think he's going to be the goal line back, so he's going to score a lot of the touchdowns. If Aaron Jones isn't scoring touchdowns, I think it's going to be really tough for him to finish top 30. He'll get some reception work, but is J.J. McCarthy the kind of guy to check down? I'm not sure. Is he the kind of guy to get a lot of completions in the game? I'm not sure. If I were J.J. McCarthy, I would zero in on Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison when he gets back. So I just don't really see Aaron Jones really having that big of an impact this year. So I think he'll finish outside the top 30. And then Tyron Tracy, I'm not a believer in Cam Scatterbo. I think that offense is going to suck until Jackson Dart gets in there. So if Jackson Dart gets in there by week 5 when they play the Saints, which is kind of what everyone is saying is the Giants' plan, maybe Tracy starts to pop off then. But I don't know. I feel like really to make this bold prediction, again, they'll get more bold as we go on. But for this one, we're really just fading Tyron Tracy, in my opinion. I'm fine doing that. The other running backs on his roster I don't really factor into is Audrey Guessame, Raheem Mostert, Samaj P. Ryan, A.J. Dillon, Rico Dowdle, and Elijah Mitchell. If any of them finish top 30, you got it, Ahmad. You got it, bro. Ahmad has a good team other than his running backs, but yeah, I don't think he has a top 30 running back on his roster, and it's really hard to compete that way. So we'll get to Ahmad a little bit later, but I think he'll make a move at some point for a running back. Let's move to number 15 here, the Milkers. Sorry to start off negative here. We've never had a winless season in the JPDL. We're going into year 9 right here. I think we'll have our first one. First 0-14 season. Gill went 1-13 last year, so he flirted with it before a late season win. Look, we have 2 expansion teams this year. This is one of them. I did my best as a commissioner to give them some resources to work with. Obviously, some of the other owners were, not as forthcoming in giving up assets. I had to negotiate pretty hard to give them what they did get. But look, both of our expansion teams, they know the deal. They're in a rebuild situation for the next couple of years. For the Milkers team this year, he has Tua and Darnold at quarterback, which at least they'll score points. I think Tua could have a bounce back year this year, but again, as we go through the rest of this roster, unless Tua has an MVP campaign, I don't see him really getting a win here. Darnold, I think he'll fall off without, Kevin O'Connell going into that new offense. I know he has JSN and I guess Cooper Kupp, the ghost of Christmas past out there, but they should be a run-heavy offense. I'm not really sure. But let's get into really where the problems lie. Talking about running backs again. His top 2 running backs are Brian Robinson, who's now Christian McCaffrey's backup, and Taj Brooks. Okay. Stephon Diggs at wide receiver 1 and Cedric Tillman at wide receiver 2. Isaiah Likely, who I actually really like. We'll see what Mark Andrews has in store for this year, but I could see Likely taking a strong step forward. I also like Brenton Strange at the flex spot, but these are guys that you're tossing into a barrel and just hoping and praying, not guys that you want to depend on to actually score points week in and week out, and then to fill out the rest of the lineup, A.D. Mitchell, and probably his best bet to have a real standout flex player, and that's Blake Corum. I don't think Kyron Williams really has a stronghold on that backfield, so maybe Corum down the stretch can do something, but look, we know a deal with Montana. They know a deal with Montana. They're just building their culture right now. They want to ship out Stephon Diggs. He's not making a good leadership impact on the young guys there. Milkers 0-14, which, again, I don't think that's the worst-case scenario. Get the first pick next year. There's Lenore Stellers coming out. There's Drew Aller coming out. A couple other guys that are interesting. Obviously, as we go through the college football season, some new guys will emerge as standout prospects. So I don't think 0-14 would be the worst case scenario. If you're not going to win the championship, the best thing you can do is set yourself up for future success. So Milkers 0-14. Bold prediction number 14. Speaking of setting up for the future, again, man, negative to start, but Ethan, he was our champion last year. He sold off a lot of his team in the offseason. I have him missing playoffs, but setting him up for the future in the process. Now, Ethan has a really interesting team because he has the most depth in the league, but he also has a million guys who are, kind of the same player, which should make for really tough, start-sit decisions on a week-in, week-out basis. At quarterback, he has number 15. I'm not going to mention him by name. That's just a personal hatred. But number 15 in Kansas City at QB1, he has Dak Prescott, who will come up multiple times in this. Dak is one of those guys that I'm really... Dak, I have a hard stance on this year. And then Michael Penix at QB3. So 3 strong quarterbacks, in my opinion. I guess 2 strong quarterbacks, and then number 15 in Kansas City. Running back, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Javonte, and Jaden Blue. So whichever Cowboys running back emerges as a starter, and then Zach Charbonnet. So he has the Seattle running back, he has the Dallas running back, and then he has Etienne and Kamara. Wide receiver, Rashee Rice, Drake London, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Emeka Ibuka, Jerry Jeudy. So you guys see right there, that's like 8 wide receivers who are, none of them are top 10, none of them are top 12, but they're all in that like 13 to like 26 range, which again, he'll be able to play matchups with that, but I think that can also run you into problems. For me, it's important to have guys that you're locking in, week out. And I don't really think Ethan has that. He has Evan Ingram and Colton Loveland at tight end. So here's where I see it, right? He also has 2 2026 firsts, and he has a championship hangover. Like, he's not as hungry to compete this year. That's what happens when you win a championship. You sell off your team. So I think Ethan, I respect him. He's one of the smartest owners in the JPDL. He's one of our only two-time champions. I think he sees the landscape. I think he sees the top 3 teams, and he's going to make a decision week 4, week 5. He's going to bet on Loveland. He's going to bet on Ibuka. He's going to bet on Penix, and he's going to trade away some of these older players like a Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill. Some of his, current performers or point producers for future assets. I think he's going to set himself up for 2026, 2027, and make championship runs in those years. But I don't see this as the juicer's year, and if it's not going to be his year, I could see him, missing playoffs, just building for the future. So that was kind of a bold prediction, but we'll start getting into really bold predictions now. Number 13, you guys knew this was coming. Justin Fields, top 5 quarterback finish this year. Look, yeah, I have Justin Fields. I believe in Justin Fields. Out of anyone in fantasy football, I've been his number one believer since day one. He was the quarterback 7 in 2022. He missed 5 games in 2023, but in 6 of the 12 weeks that he was healthy, he finished top 8. In 5 of those 12, he finished top 4. And then last year, once he got acclimated and Arthur Smith started letting him throw the ball in Pittsburgh, in his last 3 games starting, he averaged 24 points per game. Justin Fields is a good quarterback, and he finally has a team that believes in him. He finally has he's finally back as a franchise quarterback. Now, if he performs poorly this year, obviously they'll probably move on in the offseason. I know he has kind of like a 1-and-1 contract, but for right now, they believe in him. He has Garrett Wilson back to the college days, those Ohio State duo. He has Breece Hall. I wish they had a wide receiver too. If they could trade for Terry McLaurin, wheels up. Wheels up. Look, Fields is pretty easy. If he runs for a lot of touchdowns, he's going to be up there. From a point per game basis, he's been a top 5, top 10 quarterback for his entire career. So as long as he stays healthy, I don't see him finishing worse than like quarterback 8. The only quarterbacks I'd really take over him in redraft, like definitively from an upside perspective, would just be Allen, Jaden Daniels, and Lamar. So he's quarterback 4. For me on upside, and then I know you could throw in Burrow there, you could throw in Hurts, but I don't know. I think this is his year. I really think if you look at the coaching situations he's been in, you saw what Caleb Williams went through last year in Chicago. That's what Justin Fields had to deal with, right? You see the Steelers haven't had success at the quarterback position in like 10 years. They're just going to go 9-8 every year. And they just want to play a boring defensive first brand of football, sneak into the playoffs and lose by 2 touchdowns in the first game. First of all, for the Steelers last year, benching Justin Fields was one of the stupidest decisions I've ever seen a coaching staff make. Like, did they think they were going to win the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson? If not, decide what you have with Justin Fields. At least there's a chance there that you have the future. But no, we'll give up on him and we'll just go with Russell Wilson again. For Tomlin, who most people would be like, oh, Tomlin's a great head coach. Tomlin only coaches to get his 500 record because that's all he cares about. And for me, I believe if you're not going to win, like, try to win. Don't try to not lose. And Justin Fields had more upside than Russell Wilson, but that's a digression right there. I think all signs are pointing for a great season for Justin Fields. Obviously, I'm a little biased here, but yeah, top 5 for Justin Fields. I feel really good about that. If you're playing redraft, like, why would you draft, a Baker Mayfield over him? Why would you draft even a Kyler Murray over him? Like, I don't get it. I think as long as Justin Fields is healthy, he's going to project better than all those guys. Number 12, this is a league-wide kind of thing. I think Marvin Harrison will be traded 3 times this year. He's currently on Ahmad's team, Vice City Business. Ahmad has been top 3 in trades per year, along with myself and Will Fitzgerald, the Los Angeles Flames, the last 5 years. So he's in a position where he's going to get traded. There's no loyalty in Vice City, and I don't begrudge that. I don't play for loyalty in fantasy football. In my opinion, if you're not making trades, you're falling behind. Anytime there's a trade in the league and you're not involved, that's a missed opportunity. So I think Ahmad will continue to make trades. And I wanted to have at least one bold take like this about a player who will be traded a lot. And Marvin Harrison fits perfectly because he's not good enough to be untouchable, but he's good enough to be a headliner in a deal. And if he does well, everyone's going to think he's a sell high, which means Ahmad would trade him. And if he does poorly, the rest of the league is going to look at him as a buy low, and they're going to buy him. So no matter how Marvin Harrison does this year, there's a good chance he's going to be traded at least once. And his value will never completely crater. We see that with Anthony Richardson. We saw that with Trey Lance. We saw that, as long as you have the draft capital and a really good prospect profile, Like, people are going to believe in you. So I guarantee he'll be traded at least once. There's no way he's going to stay the whole season on Vice City. The question is, does he get traded second and third time? He'll get traded once early. I think he'll get traded again, and then I think he could be a deadline move as well. So I've been getting traded 3 times. Number 11, Mark. One of the top 3 teams in the league this year. He's definitely going to make playoffs. My bold prediction for Mark is that he is only going to start one playoff in at least one of his playoff games. One quarterback in at least one of his playoff games. So his quarterback situation. Now, you look at the other top 2 teams in the league. Will, again, he has Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts. James McCaskey has Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Mark has Bo Nix, Jordan Love, and CJ Stroud. So, like, obviously he's behind at the quarterback position. How do you make up for that? Now, we play super flex, so most of the time, every time for a playoff game, people have started 2 quarterbacks. I know for myself, I even started Tyler Huntley one year in the playoffs when Lamar Jackson was injured. So, obviously, quarterbacks are always going to protect the best. But for Mark, he has one quarterback starting because you have to start a quarterback. And then for him, it's about how many great flex players he has, right? He has Ashton Genty, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Chase Brown, Lad McConkey, and Trey McBride. So that's 7 stars you're starting no matter what, right? And then you're starting quarterback. So you have 80 or 10 positions filled out, locked in. So the question is, does he start a second quarterback or does he start someone in this group? Mark Andrews, Travis Hunter, Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman, Chris Olave. As long as 2 of those guys project close to what I would guess is Bo Nix or Jordan Love, I think Mark, and the big thing here is Travis Hunter. Like, if Travis Hunter joins that group above of those 7 locked and load starters, then that's 8. Plus you have the quarterback. And then it just comes down to, like, if Olave or Mark Andrews are projecting really well, I could totally see Mark just starting one quarterback in the playoffs. Now, obviously, Mark will probably make some trades. He probably wants to get a good quarterback. But as of right now, the way it stands, that's my bold prediction. I think he'll start a wide receiver or a tight end in his flex in the playoffs. All right, now we'll move up to the top 10. Ahmad, welcome back to Ahmad, Vice City Business. I think he has 2 top 8 quarterbacks on his roster. So he doesn't have running backs, but I do think both Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray finished top 8. So Kyler Murray, he had a really quiet top QB 10 season last year, and he's like Justin Fields in the sense that he has the rushing upside, which, ups his floor a bunch. I do believe in Marvin year 2, and then Trey McBride continuing to break out. And James Conner had a lot of touchdowns the last 2 years. I just think he can't keep doing that. He's 29 now. So if he starts to fall off a little and Kyler picks up some of those touchdowns, there's really no downside to Kyler Murray. Like, I don't, he had a QB6 finish in his career. I think he can finish top 8 this year. He's kind of a boring player at this point, which is weird because he had so much excitement as a young player. But he's kind of one of those guys that you yawn and put into your lineup. But yeah, top 8 for Kyler Murray. I don't think that's bold. What is bold is Trevor Lawrence finishing top 8. Now, he hasn't really come too close. He did have a quarterback 8 finish in 2022. Really fell off the last few years. But this is a Liam Cohen bet. This is a Travis Hunter bet. Liam Cohen, we saw what he did with Baker Mayfield. Baker was QB4 last year. He was QB10 the year before, after his career was pretty much dead. Baker was never a top 16 quarterback before then. So if you take a huge upgrade to your offensive profile, you add in a weapon like Travis Hunter to pair with Brian Thomas Jr., not really a running game that I believe in too much, and a defense that should be atrocious, so they should be throwing the ball a lot. Look, I've said it all offseason, is this year a bust for Trevor Lawrence? If Trevor Lawrence can't do it this year, he's a bust. Okay, so I guess it comes down to what you believe in Trevor Lawrence. I still believe in him somewhat, but this will be the prove-it year. And if he comes to fruition, I could see a top 8 finish there. So I got Ahmad with 2 top 8 finishes at the quarterback position. Number 9, Mikel ends the season with 6 plus 2026 first. So he currently has 4, which means he only needs 2 more. So the question is, does he have enough value on his roster to get 2 more? And then also, will he be incentivized to get 2 more? In my opinion, pretty, around the trade deadline or something like that, if he's 2-5, 2-6, something like that, I could see him flipping all of his existing assets to try to get the 101, because the way our losers bracket works is it's reverse. So the bottom, it's weird because now we're up to 12 teams. So the bottom 6 teams will all go to losers bracket, and then the loser each round, so whoever scores less points advances in the losers bracket. So whoever gets the number 1 pick is whoever scores the least amount of points throughout the losers bracket. So basically there's a strategy in getting rid of all your points. And for Mikel, the assets that he has, which he could turn into draft picks to help him with draft position this year and then moving to the future, would be Geno Smith, Matthew Stafford, James Conner, Tony Pollard, Jaden Reed, and I don't think he'll trade JCM Bill out there, the new running back in Washington. But yeah, I think he could definitely trade, Connor and Pollard for a first, or maybe like Jaden Reed and Stafford or Geno for a first. So I think he's going to finish with 6 2026 first. I don't know if he'll trade for 2027 first, 2028 first, but if it were me, I'd try to ramp up this rebuild and try to get as much 2026 draft capital as possible. So I think he does have enough value to probably do it by the trade deadline, and yeah, that's how I see that season going. Obviously our other expansion teams, so for them it'll be a total rebuild situation. All right, number 8, this is where we're going to start getting pretty bold. Travis Kelce is going to retire mid-season. I don't know if you guys watched the Taylor Swift podcast. I did purely research, no enjoyment there, but our staff out here in Toronto, we're always, any type of news, any type of input that we can put into our models, we're going to make sure that we're watching it. Yeah, I don't think he wants to play football anymore. I feel like if they won last year, he would have retired. And that's the kind of decision that you make in the moment, right? He made it pretty soon after the Super Bowl ended, like a week or 2 later. And I know that bad taste was still in his mouth, and it was like, oh, yep, I'm still Travis Kelce. I know I did nothing in the playoffs, but yeah, like I can't go like that. I'm not. Look, he's cooked. I know he had a couple catches in the preseason game yesterday. He's a pop star now. He just wants to follow Taylor Swift on tour. So they have a Week 10 bye. I think Rashee Rice will be back by that point. If Travis Kelce hasn't really come onto his own, you leave the football before the football leaves you. Okay, it's as simple as that. So if he gets injured, I could see him retiring. But I could see him really being like, if he has a couple of 2 for 11, 2 for 14 weeks, and Rashee's coming back, and Worthy's come onto his own, and Hollywood Brown is out targeting him, and he looks around, and Noah Gray's running routes ahead of him, and he's just like, look, I'm not helping the team anymore. I'm a multimillionaire. I have my podcast. I have my superstar future wife. Like, I don't need this anymore. I think he's going to retire mid-season. Top 7. All right. This one's pretty bold. But this will go into a Dak Prescott thing I have in a minute. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb will break the record for most combined receiving yards per game. So the record is 199 by Herman Moore and Brett Perryman of the 1995 Lions. So this is coinciding with my take that Dak's going to finish top 3 for MVP. They have no defense. They have no running game. They're playing 10 games in a dome. They're going to have to pass the ball. I think Dak throws for 5,000 yards. So basically, if CD turns in his 2023 campaign, if he just repeats that, they just need 96 yards per game by Pickens. So obviously CD had like 1,700 yards or something like that. I think they need like 3,200 about that to break this record. So this really comes down to how concentrated the offense is going to be, and I think it'll be highly, highly concentrated. I think Dak will throw for 5,000 yards. Could 3,200 that go to his top 2 wide receivers? Yep. And they just need to stay healthy. Now, I was going to do total raw yards, but I'll say points, receiving yards per game, because I'm sure each of them will miss a few games here and there. But as long as they're on the field together, 199 yards a game doesn't seem too crazy to me. I know this one's bold. I know Jake Ferguson's there. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. So, yeah. This is just wheels up for not for the Cowboys. I don't think they're going to finish with a good record. But for the passing game, how? Like, okay, if I weren't playing redraft, my whole strategy would be getting the Cowboys passing game. I really don't understand why Dak isn't going as a top 6 fantasy quarterback, why CeeDee Lamb isn't a top 5 wide receiver, why Pickens isn't a round 3 wide receiver. I just guys, we're not playing real football here. It doesn't matter how good real Dak is. It doesn't matter how good real Pickens is. We're playing a game that's built on numbers and stats and accumulating raw totals. How are they not going to throw the ball 70% of their plays? And if that happens, I mean, Dak's good enough to get them the ball. And it's a math thing for me. I think they're separated well. It's not like the 1995 Lions were a juggernaut. It's not a team take. It's just a stats take. And I think they're going to absolutely ball out in Dallas. Okay, Mills is going to finish with a worse record than one of our expansion teams. This one, I know I have it at 6. This one might be the hottest take on here. Look, I've been a Mills hater before. I'm going to do it again. I know Mills somehow always finds a way to outproject his preseason totals. I just hate this team, and I think Mikel could beat him a couple early in the season. And if that happens, I don't see where there's many wins on the schedule for Las Vegas. He has Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy, so 2 question marks at quarterback. I don't care how good Caleb looks against backups. It's still going to be a work in progress. I know Ben Johnson's a god, but, that's a tough offense to learn, so there's going to be learning curves there. We don't know what J.J. McCarthy is going to be out of the preseason. And if the Bears or the Vikings fail, Mills' whole team falls apart because he's really built on his whole strategy, and I actually agree with the strategy, is instead of targeting players, target offensive play callers. So obviously he has 2 of the top offensive play callers in Ben Johnson and Kevin O'Connell, and that's kind of his strategy. But if one of those offensive fail, I mean, he has Caleb with, I think he has Luther Burden. And then for the Vikings, he has J.J. McCarthy. He has Hawkinson. He has Addison. So, that's 5-year starters right there, kind of built into 2 offenses. And then James Cook, I think, will take a step back. He had 20 touchdowns last year. It's just hard to, touchdown regression will probably come that way. Chuba Hubbard's fine, but it's the Panthers running back, so who really cares at the end of the day? Addison suspended, and then we go to his schedule. He has me week 1 and Mikel week 2. Let's just say he splits those, okay? And I'm going to beat him week 1, so that really comes down to him versus Mikel in week 2, which is really what this bold prediction comes down to. But I'm going to beat him week 1, so 0-1. And then he faces Mikel. I'll give him a win there, so 1-1. And then he gets Mark, Chris, Will, Ethan, week 3 through 6. I think that's 4 L's. So we're looking at 1-5 best case scenario through 6 weeks. At that point, he should trade everything and do a complete rebuild. And that's where my take comes in. So I think Mills will finish with a worse record than Schrock. All right, top 5 now. Back to Ethan's quarterback situation. Number 15 won't be starting for him by week 5. The Chiefs don't care. They haven't cared for a lot of seasons now. They're going to go 13-4. They're going to score 19 points per game. It's going to be unwatchable. The refs are going to bail them out. They're going to be a defensive-first football team. And it's just going to be boring to watch. And then you have Dak, who, again, I think will finish top 3 as MVP. And then Michael Penix. So Ethan's a Falcons fan. So that already helps Penix's chances to start. If Penix has a good first couple weeks, Ethan's not going to be starting at 15 anymore. You've heard all the positive camp reports about Kyle Pitts. Obviously, Drake London's coming in on his own. Bijan Robinson, a lot of him have him as the number 1 pick in fantasy this year. I think that offense should be pretty good. And yeah, so really, you look at Dak, you look at Penix. They have so much excitement around them, and then you have the most boring player in fantasy football. If it were me, and some of this comes down to what you want to watch on Sundays, right? Like let's step out of the the nuances or of week in, week out of trying to win fantasy. At the end of the day, we're just trying to watch our guys and have fun. There's no fun with 15. So unless, and again, to coincide with this, Ethan will obviously trade 15 at that point. I could see him trading him to Mark. But number 15 either won't be on Ethan's roster. If he is, he won't even be a starter by week 5. Top 4. This one, for anyone outside the JPDL, won't seem like a bold prediction. But Chris is not only going to win his first playoff game this year, but he's going to get the bye week. He's going to win his division. And this is bold because Chris, we are going into year 9 in the JPDL. Chris doesn't have a playoff win through 8 years. He's had good rosters before. He is the worst coach in the JPDL. No one is better at getting less of their talent than Chris. And so you look at his roster, you see Burrow and Herbert. You see Bucky and Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. You see Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase. You see Dalton Kincaid, who's a make-believe player. But then you see Pearsall, Downs, and Waddle. And you're like, wow, that's an amazing roster. That should be a top 3, top 4 team in the league. Yeah. Chris, prove it to me. All right, prove it to me this year. But he also has Gill's 2026 first, which projects to be a mid to high first. I can see him, if Downs or Pearsall aren't cutting in the flex spot, I can see him flipping that for, some, maybe he goes to Easton, maybe he gets Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill for that first and really has a really good team. This is bold because I don't really believe in the coach, but I believe in the talent. I believe in the roster, and I think it's good enough to win the division. And I know he has 2 really good teams in Mark and James McCaskey in this division. If he doesn't win a playoff game this year, I don't know, man. We're gonna have to have some discussions in the offseason. Top 3 here. Gill finishes with 2 top 10 wide receivers. So, Brian Thomas Jr. probably locked in. Don't got to worry about him. So the question is, can one of these 3 finish top 10 in fantasy? Xavier Worthy, Matthew Golden, and Rome Odunze. Now, I kind of threw Rome in there as a joke. We don't have to worry about that scrub. But Matthew Golden and Xavier Worthy. And the one I really want to focus on is Xavier Worthy. So, obviously, Rashee Rice will be suspended. I already said what I needed to say about Travis Kelce. If the Chiefs are going to be fun, it's going to be Worthy. He was top 15 the last 5 weeks of the season last year, including the playoffs. He was the number 1 fantasy wide receiver in the Super Bowl, number 1 wide receiver in fantasy in the conference championship. So as the games got more important, he stepped up. They trusted him more. He started to progress and develop. And I just think, man, it shouldn't take too much for Xavier Worthy to finish top 10 if he has 3 to 4 wide receiver 1 finishes on the year, which is what you're betting on. You're betting on 4 or 5, 80-yard touchdowns, 60-yard touchdowns. It's a Jameson Williams type season with more volume. So if he can be J-Mo from last year with more volume, how is top 10 out of reach for Xavier Worthy? I think this is bold, but I don't think it's crazy. And that's the difference. So yeah, I love Brian Thomas Jr. this year, and I really do like Worthy this year. If not Worthy, we don't know if the Packers, they've always had this rotation of wide receivers, right? They have Dontavian Wicks, they have Romeo Doubs, they have Jaden Reed and all that. Now, is that a product of the offense they have there with Matt LaFleur? Is that a product of not having a true alpha wide receiver 1? If Golden is really good, do they change that rotation? Just say, hey, look, Jordan Love, lock in on your wide receiver 1. We're going to change the way we do things. I think that's a possibility. Obviously, it's tough for a rookie to get top 10 in year 1. But if Worthy's not going to do it, I could see this as a kind of backdoor way to win this bold prediction. So I'm not going to turn the light off on Golden, but this is really a Xavier Worthy bet. All right, top 2. I'm calling this 4x4. The Philadelphia Frauds will finish with the high-scoring quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end in fantasy this year. So the top 2, Josh Allen, Brock Bowers. They're going as the quarterback 1. They're going as the tight end 1. That's not that bold. They just have to stay healthy. I think Bowers and McBride is probably closer than most people would say. I already said I think Kyler will have a good year, but as long as Brock Bowers is healthy, he's probably going to project as the tight end 1 most seasons for the next decade. So it really comes down to running back and wide receiver. So running back, if I were playing redraft, I do think I've done some research. I do think Jahmyr Gibbs would be my 101 over Jamar Chase. I just think, first of all, he's already really good. I think he's the best talent at the running back position in the NFL right now. The question is, can he get more receiving production, and can he ice David Montgomery? First one, The line should not be as good as they were last year, not only because they're losing Ben Johnson, but just the natural variance of the NFL season from year-to-year basis. Last year, they had the best point differential in the NFL. They had like 60 positive points above their opponents, and I think the next closest with the Eagles, who were like 40 below them or something like that. So they're not going to be that dominant again, which means they're going to have to throw the ball more. And, we know Jahmyr Gibbs' receiving profile. He should be one of the best receiving running backs in the NFL. And so if he gets more receiving production, that's going to boost him up. And then David Montgomery. I get it. Like, Dan Campbell's a physicality guy. He's a establish our mentality. We're a tough football team. But, like, if they need to win games, they need to get Jahmyr Gibbs the ball. And they need to stop with this experiment of David Montgomery getting 6-yard runs on first down and give the ball to the guy who will break those same 6-yard runs for 25-yard gains. So I love Gibbs. And then the real bold part of this is A.J. Brown finishing wide receiver 1. I do think it's pretty binary here for James. Like, A.J. Brown is the only one who really has a chance to finish wide receiver 1. How does A.J. Brown do it? Now, he was wide receiver 6 in 2022, wide receiver 5 in 2023, and wide receiver 20 last year. Last year, he missed a few games, and the offense, obviously, they had Saquon, who almost broke the yardage record. They ran the ball. They were pretty dominant. If the Eagles are worse this year and have to throw the ball more, like, the pressure's off. They should be a fun team. I think A.J. Brown could score 15-plus touchdowns, and if that's the case, he really is a contender for wide receiver 1. I don't think that's crazy to say. The crazy part of this bold prediction is saying a 4-leg parlay. Obviously, it would probably be like plus 1,700 plus in any type of sports book, but I don't know. I believe in the first 3 definitively, and then A.J. Brown, that's where this bet is predicated on. Number 1. I haven't mentioned them yet, really. But this is the best team, the best roster that I've seen for at least one season since we've moved to Dynasty, and this is the LA Flames. I have them finishing the JPDL with the first ever undefeated record, and then losing first round of the playoffs. So, some history on Will. Will is the most winningest owner, regular season owner in JPDL history. He has the best winning percentage, and he's 0-3 in finals. He has not figured out playoff football. His team chokes. And you look at this roster, man. Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, Josh Jacobs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Terry McLaurin, George Kittle. He has Debo and Rodgers on the bench. He doesn't have too much depth, but that starting lineup, I mean, you probably have 2 top 4 quarterbacks, the top 2 running backs on ADP, Achane, who's the second-round pick, Jacobs, who's the second-round pick, Derrick Henry, who's a second-round pick, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a round 1 wide receiver, George Kittle, who's the top 3 tight end. There's no way this team fails. It's just, can they get it done in the playoffs? And I don't believe so. And the other thing with Will is, aside from me, he's probably the owner who's most built on narratives and constructing a narrative around his team. And I think he has something to prove, and I think he wants to prove that this is the best team ever. So this is as much a bet on an amazing roster as it is on an owner who wants to prove that he has an amazing roster. And if he can go undefeated, he'll have a real conversation about being the best owner in the league, even with 1 championship to Ethan and Mills' 2. And I think he wants to prove that. So that's what I see for this year. The LA Flames going 14-0 in the regular season, and then I have them losing first round of the playoffs. So those are the bold predictions for the JPDL season. I don't know if you guys, any of the other owners in the JPDL, have some bold predictions, or if anyone on the outside, whether it be your league, whether it be player takes, what are your guys' bold predictions? I'd love to hear down below. But yeah, that's all I really had to say. Commissioner out.